So today's speaker is John Brooks from insightsoftware.com. John has worked in the JDE world at Enterprise One Arena since 1990. John joined insightsoftware.com almost 10 years ago as a director in EMEA and assists customers in Europe to get the most from their investment in InsightUnlimited. So without further ado, John, it's over to you.
Thanks, Amy. Right, everyone, we're looking to about maybe 30-35 minutes today, depending on how many sort of questions we have at the end. As Amy said, if you want to type in any questions, we'll try and get through as many of them as we can at the end. So the good news, Insight Unlimited 2013.1 is now available. It came out at the end of December. We've already got the first customers up and running on it, and it's proving quite popular. There's quite a few new features in there to go through. So we're going to go through the functionality that the majority of people can use right now. Then we're going to look at some specific things around budgeting. So if you use Insight Unlimited budgeting, there's some extra details there for those users. And we're going to talk about a couple of new modules that have come out as well. So widening the footprint of Insight Unlimited with this release. So we're going to have a mixture of PowerPoint and software here. So I'll be going between the admin tool, Insight Console and Insight Reporting to show various features. So the first thing I want to do is have a look at comment columns. So the ability to add in comments, type in comments next to data that gets stored within Insight. So a lot of people want to add sort of the context, the why, the what. Why is this happening, or what happened with that customer, that business unit, that invoice. So you can now add in the comments. Previously this was available in Insight Unlimited budgeting. It's now available on any template that you want to switch it on for. So it's in every module, every template. So if I, for instance, go over to my Insight screen, I've got a screen here that tells me I've got my sales shipments by business unit, and I've got some notes that I can put in. So I've got my 4 different branches on the side. Let me just zoom in a little bit. And what I can see is I've got some notes about a Denver factory refit that was completed in February one year. If I want to go in and add some more notes, I'll just go to my Home tab, and I've got a button called Enter Comments. I can click on that, and these comments fields become capable. They turn yellow, so I can start typing in notes about some of the other business units. But if you imagine, this could be typing in notes about a particular customer invoice or payment. It could be typing in notes on any screen. It could be a general ledger profit and loss screen. It could be in a planning screen. It could be in a sales screen. It's up to you how many comment columns you want on what screens. And this data is actually stored in the Insights object repository, and it's connected to this report name. So other people who use this report will be able to see the comments. The nice thing about that is it actually protects them. If you're not authorized to see the data, you're not actually going to see a comment about this particular business unit in this case on another Insight screen. You're only going to see it inside this one, so you can put in relevant comments knowing that they're only visible in certain circumstances. So once I've typed in my comments, and the comments can be as long as you need them to be, they will automatically wrap. You can have comments hundreds of characters long, thousands of characters long if you need to. I'll just type that in. So you can see it's automatically wrapped. I'm just going to say now, I'm going to just finish putting my comments in. And I can save my comments, or I can just press finish, which will save them and take me out of comment mode. So I might have more than one comment column on there. For instance, I might have comments that I'm going to put in another column for comments for my manager, so they could put their own comments next to mine. But that feature is now enabled throughout the software, and it's something that's been asked for a long time. It's one of the problems you've got in spreadsheets is people put comments into spreadsheets. You see the little red tag on the corner of a cell, but that data is not shareable. It gets out of date. It's not stored centrally anywhere. These Insight comments will be stored centrally. So let's go back to the slides and talk about the next feature. The next one is executive grade reporting. We've done a lot of work in this release to actually upgrade how the reports look, how they get exported, how they get presented to other people who need to see the data. And this is actually touched on several areas. I'm going to go into Insight reporting as a power user now, and show you some of these in action. So what I'm going to do is I'll have a look here. Here's an example of an accounts receivable report. I'm looking at a live aging summary report, and let's have a look at how we've improved the reporting. Well, the observant amongst you will have noticed that the titles look slightly different. Before you could format a title, you could change the font and the colour and the size, but it affected the whole title. Whereas now we can have different fonts, colours, styles, sizes on different words, on different rows within the title. So I can have a dark main title in a large font. I can have a smaller font in blue for the two sublines, and I can actually have a fourth line over here that is actually left justified. So what else can I do here that's new? I can have things like web links on here. So imagine you've got reporting guides or standards, or maybe budgeting input guides that you put onto a shared folder or web page. You can have titles linking out to web pages now. So that's one of the features that's upgraded Insight reporting. If I want to make a change to this, I can just double click on the title and see. You'll see in the edit box I can just pick any particular section and just change just that one section to have whatever I need. A couple of other things while we're here. Some things we were asked for was being able to put things like the run date into the report title. This is very good if you're exporting to PDF or to Excel, or now the new option of Word, because people want to know when did I run it, and other information such as when was the aging done. So I can now put more things into the actual report title, and they will be using the export as well. So if I look in the special selections here, as well as having things like the report name, I've now got the run date, the as of date, and in fact what date I'm starting the aging from. So I've got more options around what's in the title, how it looks, how it's presented, and hyperlinks as well. The next part of the formatting is to actually change the column headers. Now the column headers before, you could change the words that were in there, but not the look and feel. So let me just come out of console mode, go into power user mode, and I'm going to change how this word custom number appears here. So if I want to format the column header, I can now go in and change again the font, the style, the size, the colour, whatever I need to have. Let's just go there. So on customer number in a font to make my report look exactly how I want it to look. So what's the new option around exporting to Word? This is something we've been asked for, and it was having that integration with Office. People want to produce documents from Insight. So we've done a couple of things here. The first thing is to add a concept of style sheets. And we supply in this new version a couple of sample style sheets that you can edit. Now a style sheet you can set up with things like the logo wherever you want it. You can put some standard company boilerplate or terms and conditions on there. And it will pick up all the new formatting you've got on things like your titles, your column headers. You can see I've already got some formatting on my numbers down here already. So if I've got a style sheet and I've got this new option of Word and Word options, let's have a look at a couple of things. So when I go to do export to Word, it says what is going to be my page size and orientation, and this new part here, what is my style sheet? And I'm going to use one called executive style sheet.doc. And this is stored in our object repository, so you can have a style sheet that one person creates that's uploaded, stored centrally and used by all the users. So you know you're getting consistency when people export to Word. The reporting and cover page options are pretty much as you'd expect. Do you want a cover page? What do you include on the report? But there's a lot of options around the new breaks. Now the breaking here is around not just breaking to a new page when, let's say, the business unit changes in this report case, but maybe actually want to create multiple Word documents. This also works for PDF, it also works for Excel as well. So what if I'm running a report and I've got 100 business units and I actually want a different Word document for each business unit, or a different spreadsheet for each business unit? Insight 2013 will now do that for you. So what I've said is I'm going to break by filter selections, and if I go to here, you see I've chosen to break whenever one of these 5 business units changes, I want to go to a new page, but I can also use break after totals or break based on what I'm sorting on. And I'm going to break the different Word documents into different files. Now I could just choose to break into pages, but I actually want to put them into different files, and each file should be named like this. I've chosen to have my report name at the start, so that will be AR Live Aging Summary, then the word for, and then it should insert the business unit number. So for example, it would be AR Live Aging Summary for Green Technologies or for Business Unit 1. So that's what we'll have on there. So if I want to now go to my Word option and I press the Word button, what it's actually going to do, and you'll see this come up onto my screen, it's actually going to create the different Word documents for me. So there's my my sample document, and here you can see you can completely change how it looks. If I go to print mode, you'll see the finished output of how it will look because we've got all those placeholders in. But you can set up your own logos, document headers, formatting, title, footnotes, etc. And it will insert in your title with all its formatting, your column headers with all the formatting, and the data from the grid. But you can see you can completely build some standard forms around the data. And if I close this one, so this was for Business Unit 303 Las Vegas, if I close that, you'll see there's the one for Business Unit 1. There's Business Unit D30, Business Unit 302. So it's actually created separate Word documents for each of those and has given them each a different file name. So we spent a lot of time creating that, the ability to create executive grade reporting, better formatting, better end user experience, but then also the ability to burst those reports out very simply. At the moment we've got some customers that either create multiple copies of the same report that are very similar, maybe just the filters are different at the top, or they're creating report packs with many reports in. This should actually simplify how many Insight reports you create and how many versions you have to maintain. It also means you can do more things live in real time. You don't have to worry about scheduling reports nearly as much. You can actually go back to being sort of live real time and creating the reports on the fly, and know you can easily create many different output documents as you need them. Aging start date filters. This is quite a nice feature. This is continuing our trend of adding more and more into what a console user can do. So when Insight Console started off, it was just a way of running reports. Since then, we've added the ability to do filtering, query by example. In the 2012 release, column sorting became available for console users. What we've now done is we've added the start date filter. So let's go and have a look at an example of this. So as a power user, I was always able to go and change start dates by going up to my inquiry objects and going into aging categories and playing with the dates. And I had to make the changes and save them. But it's something I could never do as a console user, and even as a power user, it was a little bit of a faff at times. Because all I really want to do is change the start date. So what we can now do, if I go into console, is we've now got a new filter type, where, for instance, I've got a report here that says sales shipments by business unit. And it's got some dynamic title elements, so I can, if I want to run this for all companies, I'll just put that back to an asterisk. But what I'm going to do is I've set up as a power user the fact that this report has 12 months on there. But now what the console user can do is just pick what those 12 months are. So if I want to pick for a whole calendar year, I can pick January 1st, and it will give me January, February, March, April, etc. It will give me the whole 12 months. If I want to pick a date mid-month, it will just go to that same day in every month. So let's start this off and say March 23rd. And I'll now get 12 months from March 23rd of this year all the way up to March 22nd of next year. So it'll give me that rolling 12 months very simply. It's much simpler than having to maybe set up a time series in the past, or having to ask a power user to change a report. So I've used this example from sales just because it's is a fairly common thing. People want to look at their sales orders or their manufacturing output or their purchase order history by week or by month, however you've done it, but they want the end users to be able to choose when that period starts from and be able to roll that forward. So it's a really simple, effective way to give those users that functionality. Okay, just go back to being a power user for a moment. Let's go back to here. So as well as the aging start date filters, that gives you dynamic aging for all users. If you're not already on Insight 2012, your console users are in for a real treat, because they now get all those new features and then this new feature in 2013 to improve how they look and interact with console reports, and they can now output them in a much better way through Word or Excel or PDF. New options there, so much better use of data and experience for all the users. Let's talk about Community Portal and Designer Express. Now, everyone has a Community Portal. If you're a power user, you can request a login. If you haven't already done that, I recommend it's one of the first things you do. The Community Portal can be accessed via this tab when you're logged in as a power user. And if you haven't already got a profile, there's a little button here called Create an Account. Just fill in your details. That goes to our support team, and they'll set you up a profile. Community Portal gives you access to hundreds of documents. You can see down here we've got over 1,500 knowledge articles. We've got 90 videos explaining how to use Insight. There's even 544 reports that you can download. These reports built by other people. You can download the RDF files and try the reports, change them, tweak them, anything you want to. Now, what we've done in this release is we've added support for the Community Portal for the administrator. So if I go over to the admin tool, and any of you that are familiar with the admin tool, this is where you set up your connections to JD Edwards, this is where you create your user IDs, this is where you manage folders and security permissions. But what we've now added is a new button up here, Community Portal at the top. If you click on that, you get that same login. And that's because we've seen that a lot of Insight admin users, they're not necessarily power users, but they want access to this information. So I've got my ID filled in. I'm just going to press the login button. So I can now log into Community Portal from the admin tool, and for example, I might want to do a search to find out what's new in this particular release of software. So I'm just going to type in new, hit the little magnifying glass, and you'll see I'll get all kinds of articles and results coming through. How do I create new things? What's new in the release? All of these things will be in here. So a valuable source of information now to administrator users who look after the Insight system. Now in DX, we've added 2 or 3 quite nifty things in Designer Express. The first one is that DX now identifies for you all your primary table keys. So when you go in there, rather than having to know what your keys are, Insight will put a little icon next to it to show that this is now a key to the table. But we've also added support for 2 other features. The first one is date effectivity. There's a lot of places in JD Edwards where you can set up effective dates. So I'll give you an example. You might have in your purchasing department a list of agreed prices, the prices you buy certain items at. But those price lists only last for a certain amount of time, and that the prices will expire, and so let's say a new 2014 price list will come in. So what Insight can now do is look for an effective date to make sure it picks up the right record when it needs to. What you can also do is have the option of looking for the latest record. So, what's the current record? So if you have, for instance, on somebody's contact details, multiple phone numbers because they've changed their phone number or the email address, what's the latest one? What's the current one? It will help you do that. So Designer Express gives you more options now for building reports over some of the more sophisticated areas of JD Edwards that have multiple records and effectivity dates. So you've got better knowledge sharing for the admin tool, you've got better control of sophisticated data in Designer Express, and that's the main features of Insight 2013. But what we're going to do now is just spend 5 minutes talking about some completely new areas. So within budgeting, we've spent a lot of time on this release looking at how we do budgeting. And there's three specific scenarios I want to talk about. We've actually run some workshops on this. I don't know if anyone attending this call has already been to some of our hands-on workshops. They're things we do on a regular basis in our Ealing offices, where you can come in, try the software, speak with other customers about how you're using Insight, see if things are possible. So look out for invitations on those. But these features have all been discussed in those workshops. So the first one is summary budgeting, and an example of this would be, I want to do budgeting just at a project level. I don't want to do budgeting down at an account level or subsidiary level. I just want to say, what's my whole budget for a project? And Insight can now do that. So you might just want to do a budget for a business unit, or just do a budget at a company level, and not worry about having to fill in business unit, object, subsidiary level of detail. Maybe it's a first cut budget, and the first cut is just really high level. So high level budgeting, summary budgeting, is a feature now in Insight 2013.1. Now, for as many people who ask for summary budgeting, we have the same number of people ask for detailed budgeting. This is the ability to add in budgeting records for things that don't exist in JD Edwards. I'll give you an example. You might have a budget line for, let's say, travel and expenses. But what you really want to do is be able to put into the budget, well, the travel and expenses is £10,000, but actually 4,000 of that is air flights, 3,000 is hotels, 1,000 is car hire, and the rest is meals. So to actually be able to put in those detailed lines, even though they don't correspond to actual accounts in the JD Edwards chart of accounts, is now possible in Insight 2013.1. And Insight will add up those detailed lines and put the total into the actual JD Edwards account line. So if you do the upload, it will work. And the last major new feature for 2013 budgeting is we now support continuous budgeting. Now, what does this mean? Well, before you were able to use budgeting and a time series, so you could actually put in budget, say, for a rolling 12 months or a rolling 18 or 24 months, however long you need. But that wouldn't be supported if you were doing modelling. So Insight Budgeting has the ability to include embedded Excel based modelling, where you can configure a spreadsheet, so you're harnessing the power of Excel within your budgeting process. That Excel modelling feature is now supported along with time series. So now you can have continuous budgeting with modelling in Insight 2013.1. So two totally new modules to talk about now. The first one, real estate management. This is quite a big module in terms of its complexity, its breadth. There's been a lot of problems that JD Edwards customers have had. If they're property companies, they're managing multiple properties. They've got lots of customers taking out units, space within those properties, on things like how do I get a rent book, a rent roll. Just to give you an idea, the rent roll template contains over 70 individual tables all joined together. It's a huge piece of work to actually get that out, to get an accurate number out. But as well as rent roll, things like unit master, expiring leases, messages need to be dealt with, billing integrity. There's 14 different templates now to completely cover off what you need in real estate management. So if that's a module that interests you, if you're using that kind of feature in JD Edwards, we'd like to hear from you. You might want to give it a try. We can certainly arrange for a license key, a temporary license key, to be issued, so you can try out the new version of software with real estate management. And the last thing I wanted to end on today was, in 2013.1, we've got a completely new module called strategic planning. Now, what is strategic planning? Well, in a nutshell, you've had Designer Express for a while, but Designer Express was to report on data that you had already in JD Edwards or in a custom table. What strategic planning does, it allows you to use your Insight Designer Express license. If you then have a strategic planning license, you can now capture data. So you could create new tables within Insight, you could enter data into those tables, and then you can use that data next to live JD Edwards data. So for example, we've got people planning their headcount and payroll for the next 12 months. Even though they don't use JD Edwards payroll, they want to plan their headcount and their costs using strategic planning. Maybe they want to have a look at CapEx. They want to see for their existing assets the depreciation, but also plan the depreciation for the new additions that they're going to be buying over the next 12 months, and see that all out of one stream of the total. Strategic planning will allow you to do things like that. And things like sales planning, manufacturing planning. What am I going to build, for which customers, when am I going to build it, and just do it at a very high level or quite a detailed level. It's up to you. So strategic planning has a lot of flexibility around how that works. And certainly strategic planning is one of the next hands-on workshops we're going to be running. So Amy will be contacting you about an invitation to a strategic planning workshop. But it is a requirement to be on the 2013.1 release, and you will need to have your DX skills, and you'll need to then have the strategic planning module as well. But it opens up a lot of possibilities for what you can do around capturing that data that at the moment people are probably putting into spreadsheets or access databases, and actually giving it a proper home, somewhere to live, and somewhere where you can then use that data next to your live ERP data to get business answers. So I've reached the end of the presentation part. Amy, it's over to see what questions we have.
Yeah, lovely. And before we do that, John, I've got a couple of polling questions I'm just going to launch. Hopefully you should see it on your screen now. First question is, when are you planning to upgrade to 2013.1? Options are 1 to 3 months, 4 to 6 months, 7 to 12 months, or no plans. So a couple more seconds just to fill that in. Lovely. And just closing that poll now. Thank you very much, everyone. And second question, as John mentioned earlier on, we've been running complimentary customer-focused workshops here in Ealing, so you can come in, play with the technology, and speak to other customers and see how they're using it. So the question is, which topics would you like to hear about? Is that budgeting, reconciler, strategic planning, Designer Express? You can tick all that apply, and if you have an idea of something you would like to know more about and it's not down as an option, then please do feel free to put it into the question box and I'll see it later on. So closing that now. Okay, great. So it's now Q&A time. A couple of questions have already come in actually, so I'll start with those. If you do have additional questions, then you've got the question box there to pop it into. So the first question, John, quite a good one actually. Does Q Software work in 2013.1? And maybe if you could just explain what Q Software is.
Certainly. Something that actually came out last year, we actually have collaborated with the people at Q Software who write, they do a very nice add-on application for JDE around segregation of duties, to see how your users set up, do you have any security problems around, can people access programs they shouldn't do, etc. And they were asking how we could help them do their reporting, because a lot of our customers also have Q Software, and they actually used our development tools to create a whole Q Software module that's now available. So if you have Insight and you have Q Software, it absolutely works in the 2012 release, and it now works in the 2013.1 release as well. You can download that module. You can speak to your Q Software representative, and you can download the module and get a whole bunch of security reports using Insight over your Q Software analysis, security analysis data.
Okay, lovely. Thanks, John. You probably covered this, but maybe just to maybe explain again the difference between DX and strategic planning.
Okay, so Designer Express DX is read-only. It's designed to pull data out of JDE files or custom tables or other sources of data. Strategic planning is around input. It's around capturing data. It builds on top of what you've already got with DX around designing screens and table joins, but allows you to actually define new tables and let you capture data, add it and save it to those tables, and then use those tables in other Insight reports. So it's around capturing and collecting data and then using it later on.
Okay, lovely. Next question, how long will an upgrade take? I suppose it varies from company to company, or?
It will. I mean, the technical part of an upgrade is very simple. A lot of people will be on, for instance, Citrix server, so they need to put the new client version onto Citrix server. The object repository is shared by everyone, so as soon as the first machine is upgraded, it will upgrade your object repository with all your saved reports to the new version. That only needs to happen once, and then it's really around your own internal processes around testing a new release, training the users on the new features that are available so they can get the most out of it. That's especially important if you've maybe skipped a release. Maybe you're going from a 2011 version, or maybe one of the earlier 2012.1 versions, and you're missing version 2 and go to 2013. You can have some what's new type training, build some new reports, think about how maybe you can reduce the number of reports you have out there and make them better and more flexible. So that real part is up to you, but the technical part of an upgrade is the work of a few hours.
Okay, lovely. Another question that's come in. So saving comments, are they saved against the month specified in a report only? Hang on, sorry. Is it specified in a report only? So if you run the report for the next month, will the comments pull through or not?
It depends. It's an interesting question, because what you actually have, if I just went to an Insight report, what I've got is the ability to, let's put one with a bit more on. Let's do one here just to show you. If I say I want to add a new comment column, you're going to be asked a question, and the question is, in this case, what is this comment column associated to? And it's basically saying these are the different columns on my screen, and it's saying is it the combination of all of these that the comment is saved against. So, for example, if I unticked all of those, basically my comments would be stored against my branch plant. You'd see the same comment against every record on the screen for that branch. If I now put in branch and item, then I'll get repeated columns for that branch, comments for that branch item. If I do branch item and say customer sold to, let's do that. Let's run the report. Then what I'm going to get is the same comment repeated every time that customer buys that item from that particular branch. So let's so I would wonder if someone's bought the same item more than once. Okay, yeah, here we go. So this is a comment for, it's customer 3003. We know it's S30 from the branch plans, and it's the 24-digit phone. So you see, even though I put the comment on one line, it's now appearing on two lines, because that same customer bought the same item from the same warehouse twice. So you can choose what level your comments are in at. So it's there's lots of scope there for having high-level comments, summary comments, or very detailed comments, even on the same form. So you can have a different comment column that's depending on the status code. The status code changes as thing goes from picking to packing to invoicing. The comments might only be relevant to when an item is being picked from a warehouse. So you wouldn't want to see that comment when the goods have actually left the warehouse. So you'd include the next status code in the what the comment column is associated with. So there's a lot of flexibility there around those comment columns.
Okay, thanks, John. I think we're just about out of time now. We're 10 minutes over. So we'll conclude the webinar from here. If you do have questions and that you've put them forward, we haven't had a chance to get around to answering them, then we will be in contact and we'll let you know. Any other questions, then please do feel free to email your account managers or email John. So that's john.brooks@insightsoftware.com. So thank you very much everyone for joining us today, and of course thank you to our presenter, Mr. John Brooks.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks, everyone.
And we'll speak to you again very soon. Thank you.